Okay. All right. Hello. Hello. Living for me here. So today, or continuation, finishing up, not finishing up, starting a new topic. Oh, I don't even think I put a title in there. Did I? I don't remember what the title was. Um, I'm talking about what's your status? There we go. What's your status? And actually, what that refers to what's your nutritional status, and that's what I'm learning or reviewing tonight. Um, this is chapter 2 of nutritional status, nutritional assessment, and diet planning. Yes, chapter 2. All right, so I'm going to start with just thinking about. Oh, I'm kind of dehydrated. Excuse me. All right, so start with what do we mean by nutritional status? So, so what we mean is how well a person meets his or her nutritional needs. So your nutritional status is basically where you are. Um, do you meet the requirements um, for optimal or at least just baseline um, markers that say you're fulfilling your nutritional needs. So so nutritional status is basically what it is. What's your status? Where are you um, in meeting those nutritional needs? Whether they're good or bad, high or low, deficient, uh, deficiency, or um, what is the other term that we use? Um, can't think of it right now. All right, so within your status, oh, toxicity. It's in the slide. So deficient versus toxicity. So deficient meaning too much. Excuse me, deficient meaning not enough or zero, to toxicity, which is too much, um, or past the recommendations. So this is within your status. Within your status, you can have deficiency or toxicity. So those are the two, um, I guess, status points. So under nutrition, it just says inadequate intake of one or more nutrient. Um, Nutritional toxicity is excessive um, intake of a nutrient. So it gives a toxic effect if you have too much. It's like too much of a good thing is bad, like too much of a bad thing is bad, but also too much of a good thing is bad. Um, so those are the two status points for any nutrient. And to outline nutrient, there is, excuse me, there is micronutrient and macronutrients. This is just personal review for me. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. Your macronutrients are carbohydrates, um, proteins, and lipids, and water. So under nutrition of those points of either macro or micronutrients, and then also toxicity of uh, the. Can you have toxicity with macronutrients? Like too much carbs, too much water. I guess you can. You can definitely water. I know, but so yeah. So either of those statuses. What is meant by that? Do you know your status, where you are, where you fall on your nutrition level? Are you meeting your requirements or your micronutrients? Are you meeting requirements of your macronutrients? So within that is undernutrition could have occur undernutrition is malnutrition, which is a primary, um, which is two parts of malnutrition. So there's a primary malnutrition and there is a secondary malnutrition. So primary malnutrition is inadequate diet. So primary malnutrition basically is you're not meeting your dietary requirements just through um, your intake, and your intake is reference to what you're eating. So you're not eating a certain amount of uh, these particular foods to get certain amount of vitamins or minerals or yeah. So primary has to do with inadequate diet. So really just intake, what you're eating. That's primary malnutrition. Secondary malnutrition having to do with you're malnourished because of illness or malabsorption. So you're eating, your secondary malnutrition is you're eating, but you're not absorbing what you're eating. Your body's not absorbing what it needs. Or you are ill, you're suffering from something, therefore you are not getting um, the nutrients are not being absorbed. And so primary only has to do with you're not eating this particular foods. You're not even there's no intake of the food. And secondary has to do with um, either illness, um, you're not able to even absorb the food, even through intake, or malabsorption. Period. All right. And a lot of that does not happen in the U.S. as far as malnutrition. I mean, it does, but it doesn't occur as more prevalent in other places. Okay, nutrient intake largely determines nutritional status and contributes to health. So basically, what you eat determines your nutritional status, whether you're uh, suffering from toxicity or malnutrition or primary malnutrition and undernutrition. Really has a lot to do with your nutrient intake. All right, so there's a graph here looking at nutritional assessment slides. Let's see what this graph is trying to tell me. Nutrient intake largely determines nutritional status. Yeah, yeah. So you have undernutrition, which is deficiency. You have toxicity, and then nutrient adequacy, which is in the middle. So either you're undernutrition on this side, you're basically deficient, which equals to undernutrition, overnutrition, toxicity, and right in the middle lies nutritional adequacy. And within the nutritional adequacy being in the middle of those, you want to have basically optimal function. So nutritional adequacy is in the middle of this marker. Physiological function. So your body's operations. Um, what was I thinking? Cell turnover, body of function, walking, whatever. I'm thinking, oh, there's a pain in my arm. Ouch. Um, Body function, cell turnover, me having the ability to talk right now, move my body, move your head left to right, um, digest food, all that, your physiological function. Basically, even if you're within nutritional adequacy, um, to reach the optimal level, you have to meet all the requirements. And that has a lot to do with intake. So basically, the food you eat basically determine whether you're reaching poor or optimal, or if you're and um, adversely if you're getting the basically the meeting the requirement. So the goal is optimal function, physiological function, and nutritional adequacy. Okay, so how is nutritional status assessed? So this is how your status is assessed. It's assessed by critical during the times of growth and development. So this is early on. Has a lot to do, I guess, in childhood. ABCD method. Okay, this is particular to dietitians, nutritionists. We use the ABCD methods of nutritional assessment. So study of anthropometry, which is the physical dimensions and composition. So that's height, weight, circumference, height, weight, and circumferences. Uh, I'm thinking, trying to remember what I read. Maybe circumferences are waist size. Your waist size has a lot to do with circumferences of waist comes to mind. I don't know what else. Maybe your arms, definitely waist. So height, weight, and circumferences, definitely your waist size, and then body composition. So think like the composition of your total body, not just your arm, just pointing it out. Um, all right, so how is nutritional status assessed continued? So we just talked about a BCD method, that's how it's assessed, and then it's a study anthropometry, which is the study of your physical dimensions and composition. So anthropometry, study of physical composition and dimensions. So height, weight, circumferences. Okay. There's also ABCD methods of nutritional assessment. Oh, wait. Oh, here it is. So A represents anthropometry, which is physical dimensions and oh my gosh, I just read it. Body composition? Yes. Physical weight and body composition. So I think that represents A. B is represented by biochemical measurements. So biochemical having to do with your blood, urine test. Those are the biological markers. So that's B. C reference to clinical assessment. Clinical assessments include medical history, visible signs of illness, symptoms or disease, or malnutrition. With malnutrition, you could tell. Um, Sometimes by looking at someone if they're if they're experiencing malnutrition. So A is anthropometry, the study of body composition and body measurements. I'm ready for dimensions, physical dimensions. All right, A B biochemical. So that's blood, urine test. Is it biochemical or am I? making it up. Oh yeah, it's biochemical. And then C, I just said it. Okay, A is anthropometry. B is biochemical. C is clinical assessment. C is clinical assessment. So then that is a part of, I guess, the third stage in nutritional assessment or nutritional status, seeing where you are. And then D is represented by dietary assessment. So going back, clinical has a lot to do with your medical history and anything going on like right now. Can I look at you and see the visible signs? Can I visibly assess what's happening, malnutrition? And then D is a dietary assessment. Is that right? Yes. All right. So let's go back to tape. Anthropometry, body composition, and I don't know why I can't remember this thing. I'm gonna move on. Anthropometry, body comes to height, weight, and circumferences of the body. Um, B as in biochemical, having to do blood and urine, kind of assess that and that. C having to do with clinical assessment. So, what is your medical history? What can I see now? Looking at you, assessing your current state. That's clinical assessment. And D, the fourth is dietary assessment. So, what's your intake? What are you eating? Just taking a record of that, right? And then there's that's the ABCD method of nutritional assessment. That is very thorough, and I don't know who anyone who's ever been through a very thorough nutritional assessment like that. It should be more regular, but I don't think I. Why is my arm? I don't think I've known anybody to go through just a vigorous. It's not even vigorous, but like a nice, let's just say, detailed nutritional assessment. But that's what should happen for optimal health, to kind of see where you are. And I'm actually curious to like, not curious, like, would love to have this full assessment. This is very important. All right. So next is, so part of D, the dietary assessment, there's different types of dietary assessment. So within the ABCD method of nutritional assessment, there is under dietary assessment, there is different types of dietary assessment. So one being the retrospective dietary assessment, two being 24-hour recall. Oh wait, are they all different? Let me see my notes actually. Okay, malnutrition. Okay. Toxicity usually, oh, we already talked about that. How is nutritional status assessed? Yes. Observing, gathering. First step is ABCD method. We just talked about that. Right. So for dietary assessment, in my notes, it's saying gather info on dietary intake record. Um, I guess I didn't really write it out. All right, so let me read what it says here. So there's a 24-hour recall, food frequency questionnaire. We did talk about this. I think I need to, maybe I wrote notes in the slides. All right, so basically they are 24-hour recall, the food frequency questionnaire, and prospective dietary assessment. Wait, oh, I see it now. There's within a dietary assessment, part of the ABCD nutritional status assessment. There is two forms of dietary assessment. One is retrospective, and one is perspective. So retrospective, kind of look back. Perspective is kind of a look forward, present and forward. So in the retrospective dietary assessment, there's 24-hour recall and a food frequency questionnaire. And she didn't mention which times you do each. I thought I wrote that down. I guess not. But and then perspective, now and forward, is a diet record. Like what do you eat on a daily basis? Kind of record of what you've been eating. Um, so the tools used for food composition tables, dietary analysis software. So tools are basically food composition tables and dietary analysis software. So we use technology to kind of um, gather the dietary assessment information. How much of a nutrient is adequate? So now this is going into um, the different the guidelines of how do you know that you are experiencing toxicity too much, or you're malnutrition, or inadequate nutrition. And the way we can assess that is um, hold on. The way we can assess that. Oh no, excuse me. Oh gosh, what time is it? 8:30. All right. Actually, I might just stop here. Where did I leave off at? Yes, I guess I'll review this in my head. So, how do we know how much of a nutrient is adequate? How do you know I'm malnourished? How do I know I'm um, undernourished, or how do I know I am deficient? How do I know I'm in experiencing toxicity or having too much? How do I know? What's the marker? What's the guidelines there? So the guidelines there have a lot to do with DRIs, which is diet reference intake. And there's a few standards underneath the dietary reference intake. And so I think I will review that tomorrow since I'm so tired. All right, so that is a review of nutritional status. Know your status. Where are you? Wish more doctors did that, or we requested doctors to do that. I think next time I go for my annual, um, which is soon, I will definitely bring this up because I think this is something that's important. Um, to kind of do a really thorough assessment of my nutritional status. Um, yeah. So, till tomorrow, talk about the standards. Do you have standards? All right. Good night.